All right, everyone, I'm going to show you guys how to get started with your clay slab tile. So we have already gone over how to roll out your clay slab tile, and we have it on our clay boards right here so it doesn't bend or morph or anything like that. Our size that we're supposed to have is a half sheet of paper. It's roughly the same size. It's the same one. You probably have to clean up the edges just a little bit so they're not all janky. Before we start carving, we need to plan. So I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to show you a little bit about planning. So on your piece of paper right here, we need to first have our border. Before I start, so I have this, okay? So with this right here is my clay slab tile. You get to pick your theme. It could be nature, music, family, anything you would like. You will need to have at least a carving section where I carved away around the bee right here, and you will need to have added clay. The bee is added clay, so if I hold it to the side, you can see the raised sections that way. Another thing you must have in your clay slab tile is a border. You can see my border right here. I ended up kind of scratching it to make it look like wood, and I ended up painting it purple and not brown because I thought it looked better that way. When you start with this, you want to look up some different ideas and everything, of course, and you will need to draw out on your paper so that you can plan ahead your outline for your, you will need to outline your border on here so that you don't draw your picture too big. A few different things. You don't want your border any thinner than your pencil, and you don't want it any thicker than your ruler, okay? So just for this, I am just going to section off about half my ruler and make a border, and I'm going to draw inside my border. The reason why we have a border is that when we're carving away, that you will have a solid outline around your tile so that your clay slab can all be contained. Within right here, that's where you're going to sketch your idea. Now, just like my bumblebee right here, with your sketch, you do not have to do any detail, shading, texture, anything like that. You're just doing your basic outline, your basic blueprint to go by. So if I were to do this, I have my outline, I have my bee, and some simple shapes for my background so I can follow the shapes and make sure I do them the correct size. Now, I thought really hard on what I'm going to sketch right here, and I decided to draw a heart. Hey, look, I thought so hard on this, and he's even going to have feet and arms. And look, he looks so happy being here in art. Okay, so I have my basic outline right here. I'm going to take it and place it right on top of my clay slab. Go ahead and kind of line up, make sure your edges are all nice and clean to the paper. Your paper will get a little bit damp, and that's okay, because the next step we're going to do is we're going to transfer this image onto our clay. The way that we are going to be doing this is actually poking holes through our outline with a push pin. With this push pin, you are just going to push through your paper, making an outline like this. You want to keep your lines pretty close together because if you have them too far apart, you won't be able to tell what you originally drew. And if you take that paper off, you can see the outline of what I drew. And from here, you can, after you do all this, and from here, you can start carving away. Now, a few things about your carving tools and because the thinness of your slab. Here are some different tools. This tool, if it happens to be in your box, do not use it, okay? Because if you use this, you're going to cut the material on the board, or you're going to go too deep or anything like that. Do not use an actual blade. If you have it, please put it back in the appropriate box. Thank you. If you actually need to carve off or anything like that, use a pencil, and you can use a pencil to shave away any edges that you don't need. These two tools right here are really good carving tools because they got the loops on the back because we're going to be actually carving away the clay. So you're going to kind of like scoop in and scoop out. You should have a pile of chunks of clay as you are carving away. The bigger loops right here are good for taking away clay and things like that. So you can see that I actually took clay away and there is an indent, right? That's the carving away. Drawing into clay is taking a tip and pressing lines in there. This is good for sketching into clay and ideas or small little marks and everything, but you don't want to just have a drawing into clay. You want a carving into clay. And I'll smooth that over. And another thing too, you do not want to go any deeper than about halfway through your clay slab, okay? That's why we are adding clay on top of this to make it a little bit higher. And this way you have a little indent right here to make it concave. So you need to have an area that's carved away. You need to have an area that is added clay, like this B right here. Just like any other clay project is when you add clay to new clay, you need to do the scoring and blending. Remember, the scoring is where you rough up the surface. You can use a fork. That's a good tool. So you rough it up. Think of it as like teeth or Velcro. You're going to rough up both sides of your clay project. And then when you add your new piece of clay, you are going to blend your edges. A good blender is, the tip of your finger or a tip of the pencil. There are other blending tools that you can use, but you need to add this clay Velcro, the roughing up, and you need to blend your seams back together. So just like this bumblebee right here, I added the legs and the body and everything. I scored the surface, and then I used the tool to blend the seams back together so that it will dry as one piece and not as multiple pieces. Once you have carved in your image and added clay and everything like that, you need to go over it and clean it up, because once it's fired, we're going to be painting it and making it look very nice and bright for us to be able to hang on the walls. Also, when we are done, you'll need to carve your name on the backside, and you'll need to drill 2 holes on there, okay? So you can see the 2 holes right here that I have for the wire. I have mine on the top. You can have yours long ways, depending if you want that for your design, but it needs to be about a pencil thickness all the way through, not just a little tip or anything like that. So make sure your pencil can go all the way through that hole right there. It'll give me plenty of room to put the wire and anything else that we will need. When you are storing your clay, you will need if it's over more than an overnight stay, like over the weekend or anything like that, you'll need to put a wet napkin over it. And then with our plastic sack, you're going to tuck it in like a blanket. So you're going to lay this on top like that, and then you're going to tuck it in on the sides. And that will keep it nice and wet for the next time you come and work on your clay project.